So welcome back. So we're recording this on Thursday, and Sunday is already Time Change Sunday. So I don't know when you're watching this, but what a magical weekend Time Change Sunday is. It feels like everybody's kind of groggy a week or two after time change, but you stay up a little bit later, meaning the sunset isn't till a little bit later. So welcome to Mountain Ridge Church. We're in a series called Rise Up and Stand Firm, and we're back. So we're talking about courage and how to get courage. You know, I think courage is something we all want. I don't know anybody walking through life saying, I wish I had less courage. We all want courage. And when we see people with courage, we're inspired by that. Before we had said that when you watch movies or read books, we love those characters that had courage and made a difference. And I think one of the greatest myths about courage is that people with courage never face fear. It's a myth. People with courage never face fear, or somehow it's easy for them because, you know, their personality or something weird like that. Truth is, people with courage face the exact same fear that everybody else experiences. The difference is they trust God and they live like God can be trusted. I want you to think about some of the great stories of Scripture, right? So Peter faced fear and he got out of the boat anyway. Gideon faced fear and he led God's people anyway. Moses faced fear, but he did what God asked him to do anyway. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they faced immediate death. There's absolutely no way they were ever going to get out of it, and yet they didn't bow to the idol anyway. I think about the story we talked about at Christmas when Mary is introduced to the archangel, and she's told, you have been chosen to give birth to the Son of God. And what's her response? Just absolute response of grace. And so what makes these stories great stories is that the people in the stories are just like you and me. They faced fear and they followed God anyway. And that's really why we're in this series called Rise Up and Stand Firm. In the first part of this year, we want to talk about what it look like to be a disciple of Christ and rise up and stand firm. It's all based on Psalms 20. We're reading this every week. It says this, Psalms 20, verses 7 to 8. Some trust in chariots and some in horses, but we trust in the name of the Lord our God. They are brought to their knees and fall, but we rise up and stand firm. So the first part of this series, we talked about the things that come against you, things that steal your courage, things that make you feel less. And now in the second part of the series, we're talking about the hard work we need to do to get courage. So real quickly, what are the things we've talked about as far as hard work and as far as getting courage? What have we talked about? Do you remember when we had asked you, do you know why people keep secrets? Do you know why that is? Well, people keep secrets because they're afraid that if other people knew their secrets, they would change their opinion of them. The reason we go through life and we struggle to be transparent is we're concerned that if you really knew who I was, you wouldn't like me anymore. We call that way of living guilt. It's as old as Adam and Eve. We call it guilt. And the hard work needed to deal with guilt is we need to be transparent with God, and we need to be better at being transparent with people. And then Sam talked to us about this way of living where we want what we want so badly, we pursue it. And as we pursue what we want, it gobbles up our margin, our time, our energy. This way of living that says, this is what I want, and I'm absolutely going to burn up everything in my life to get this thing. And we call this greed. And Sam taught us that greed's more than money. Greed's about us pursuing the things we want and being willing to burn up our margin, our time, and our energy. And he said it's a scheme. It's a scheme of our enemy to take us prisoner. It was such a good week. The hard work needed to get rid of greed, to break the grip of greed in our lives, is to learn to understand what it means to give. And then last week, I was asking you, are you angry? Some people are angry, and it comes out loud. They'll cut you off, tit for tat kind of living. Some people, they're angry, but it comes out a little bit more quietly. It's more passive aggressive stuff. And we said, if there's anger in there, it never ends well. And you got to understand the reason you're angry. Someone hurt you. It's like a dog bite. Someone hurts you, and that pain just hasn't healed yet. And we said the way you deal with it, because we looked at Jesus in Scripture, is you forgive. Why do we forgive? Because Jesus taught there are spiritual implications for how you handle hurt. So if you want to get rid of hurt and anger, you must forgive. Now, before we move on to the fourth heart work thing that we want to talk about, I just want to point out how sometimes people can struggle or fail at doing the heart work needed to kind of have these things healed in their hearts, right? How does that happen that we would fail to do that? Well, we really kind of over-spiritualize some of these heart issues. Do you know what that means when we say over-spiritualize? If you're walking with guilt and greed and anger, people might think, well, I'm going to pray about these things. I'm walking with it. I'm going to pray about it. And I'm hoping God will somehow come out of heaven and grab it and just kind of remove it from me. Well, he can, but what we find most common is that he gives us the strength and the courage as we make a choice to get rid of these things. He helps us as we surrender. We make a decision. We must surrender our will to God. That means I'm going to choose to be honest. I'm going to choose to give. I'm going to choose to forgive. And when people over-spiritualize the issues of their heart, it can appear as if they're super spiritual because they say good things like, I'm praying about it, but at the same time, they're not making any choices. They're not surrendering the will. And so they continue to wrestle with guilt and greed and anger. To get courage, to walk in freedom, to do the spiritual warfare thing that it takes to clean out our hearts, we must surrender. We have to make changes. And so we encourage you, don't over-spiritualize these things. You should most certainly be praying, absolutely. But at the same time, we need to be making choices of the will to surrender and say, you know what? To defeat this thing, I'm going to do this thing. Okay. Today we talk about one more issue of the heart. And actually later we're going to read Scripture. And in Scripture it says, this one issue is the doorway to all kinds of evil. And it sounds pretty intense, right? So you must be wondering, what is it? Okay. So this Sunday, here at MRC, it's going to be better together. That means we get all the kids in the auditorium and they come forward and they hang out with us a little bit and we give an object lesson. And when we give an object lesson, it gives us handles on what we're talking about. So we're hoping with parents and grandparents, aunts and uncles, it gives us handles on how to talk to the next generation about some of these spiritual concepts, right? So I'm going to give an object lesson real quickly, and hopefully it can give you some handles at home if you have kids in the room. So if you're walking through life and you know, we saw each other, let's just say at a coffee shop. You're walking into the coffee shop. I see you, and I say, "Hey, it's great to see you." And I gave you this chocolate. It's probably hard for you to see this chocolate. I'll come in a little bit closer. It's a little chocolate bunny. Now, I see this at the grocery stores because it's Easter, and now we're selling chocolate bunnies. I still to this day don't understand the connection between Easter and chocolate bunnies, but apparently there's a connection. So let's say you come into the coffee shop and I give you this, and you would probably say, well, this is nice. Thank you. This is great. It's not a big deal thing, but you know, you'd be okay with it. You'd be grateful to have it, right? And let's just say you and I were talking for a little bit, for like 5 minutes, and you were looking forward to eating this. And then all of a sudden, a third friend of ours came into the coffee shop. And then when I saw the third friend, I came up to, the third friend came up to the table and I said, "Hey, I have a gift for you." And I gave them this bunny, right? So I gave him this bunny, and it's bigger, it's prettier, a ton more chocolate. My question for you would be, what exactly happens to you because I gave you this little bunny, but your friend got the big bunny? What happens in that moment? What happens is our focus all of a sudden goes on that bigger bunny. And all of a sudden, the joy we had about the little bunny goes away. And we're now annoyed, frustrated. We are jealous because someone got something bigger, better, nicer, shinier. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about jealousy. What is jealousy? Jealousy says, I don't like who I am, so to feel better about myself, I'm going to start comparing myself to other people. Let's just say that again real fast. Jealousy says, I really don't like who I am, and so to feel better about myself, I'm going to start comparing myself with other people. And as Scripture says, we'll read it later, it opens the door to all kinds of pain in our lives, right? This is why Scripture says in Proverbs 14:30, a peaceful heart leads to a healthy body. Jealousy is like cancer in the bones. In another translation, it says envy is like rot to the bones. If you are experiencing jealousy, it's a huge red flag. It's a red flag. It's an indicator. It's letting us know there's something going on inside the heart, and it's not good. It's not healthy. The heart's not at peace. It means you don't like who you are. It means you're feeling like you're insecure, and that feeling of insecurity feels like rot to the bones, right? Have you ever experienced being jealous? Have you ever walked through that? We all have, right? High school sports, you either made the team or your second team, or maybe you didn't make the team. You know, you all had the boyfriend-girlfriend experience, you know. You're dating a girl and another guy got too close and she seemed to be okay with, so now we're jealous, right? We're jealous sometimes the people who have life and they have it so easy. And we look at our lives and, man, it's so much more difficult. So I'm jealous of how easy it is for them, right? We all experience jealousy. I think it's part of our human condition, right? Have you ever noticed what happens when we're jealous? What happens in you? Well, what happens is, in general, we don't really like ourselves. We struggle to see our value, and we kind of feel less. We feel like, I've been given a little chocolate bunny. Everybody else has a big chocolate bunny, right? And we kind of stop looking at ourselves and being able to see what we're good at, right? Even if people praise us and encourage us, it's still a struggle because we don't like ourselves and we don't really see what's good about us. We don't see our strengths, and we begin to feel insecure. And because we feel insecure, we want to feel better about ourselves. And so what do? We start comparing ourselves with other people. Where do I come out on all this, right? And when we do that, we take our eyes off of who God created us to be, and we fail to see our strengths. We're just not secure in ourselves anymore. And when we compare ourselves to others, have you ever noticed what you do sometimes? Like when you start comparing yourself to others? In general, some people, they will absolutely compare their weaknesses to other people's strengths, right? And so we put ourselves in a lose-lose scenario. And it's a scenario that you never win, right? We compare ourselves with someone who's faster, prettier, smarter, richer. And it just makes us feel even worse, right? Doesn't this sound like an awful way to live? Yes, it is. It's called jealousy. It's a doorway to all kinds of things coming in. It's an awful, awful way to live. Scripture says this in James 4, verses 1-3. What is causing the quarrels and fights among you? Don't they come from the evil desires at war within you? You want what you don't have, so you scheme and kill to get it. If you are jealous of what others have, but you can't get it, so you fight and wage war to take it from them. Yet you don't have what you want because you don't ask God for it. And even when you ask, you don't get it because your motives are all wrong. You want only what will give you pleasure. Scripture says, and when our jealousy is at full blown, when our jealousy is at our worst moments, or jealousy is at the worst moments, to feel better about ourselves, we're comfortable putting others down. We're comfortable hurting others. We're comfortable starting fights to get what we want. When jealous, we're fighting a war inside our own heart. We want what we don't have, and like I said, we're comfortable starting an argument to try to get what we want. Think about it for a second. Where do most of your arguments come from? Chances are you're in a fight because you want what you want. Please hear me. Jealousy is a doorway to opening yourself up to all kinds of evil, right? It's a red flag. It's a warning. There's something going on in the heart, and it's not good. It's not healthy. What's wrong? You don't like who you are. And to feel better, you're going to start comparing yourself to others because you want to know kind of where you stand with this. And we begin to take our focus off of who God created us to be, and we can't see it. We don't connect with it. And even if others compliment it, we're so busy looking at the big chocolate bunny, we're not aware of the gift that God has already given us, right? So what we're going to do today, I'm going to give you a test. I'm going to give you a quiz. And if you want to see this in writing, it's on our website later on Sunday, because we'll post it and you'll be able to grab it off our website. Got to scroll all the way down to the bottom. I'm going to give you a test or quiz, and the reason I'm going to do this is because jealousy is very hard to see in ourselves. It's just very hard to see. Greed and jealousy are kind of like that. You don't walk up to the mirror and look at yourself in the mirror and see, the rage of jealousy, and you say to your family, hey, come around me. Do you see what I see? My goodness, it's so evident. I got to work on this, right? If you're angry, it's a little easier to see. If you're greedy, if you're angry or guilty, it's a little bit easier to see. But when you're greedy and when you're jealous, those things are really kind of difficult to see. So I'm going to give you a quiz, a test, and kind of walk you through this to see if jealousy might be rattling around inside our hearts a little bit. The first thing I want to say is a jealous person says to themselves, I will only be happy if I compare myself to you and I win. I can only be happy if I compare myself with you and I win. A jealous person feels great as long as they come out more successful, as they come out more popular, as they come out smarter, prettier, faster. So a jealous person feels great when they compare and win. So here's my first question to you. In life, do you compare yourself with others? And do you feel like you're a success if you're winning? Do you compare yourself with others and you come out and you believe, man, I'm a success because I'm better than so-and-so? Okay, a jealous person is quick to see what's wrong with others. It's really easy for them to point out the faults of other people. Why? Well, to put people down, like if I were to meet you and I put you down, that makes me feel better. So it's really easy for me to see what's wrong with you. It's the quickest and easiest way to kind of put you down and make me feel better, right? So here's my question for you. Question number 2. When you meet someone or when you enter a business, a church, or a school function, do you feel better seeing what's wrong with everybody around you or, whatever place you're in, because it kind of proves to yourself they're not that great? Now, that was a long question, so I'm going to ask it again. When you meet someone or enter a business, church, or school function, do you feel better seeing what's wrong because it kind of proves to yourself they're not that great? This is a very common thing. You can go into a restaurant and say, oh, these 5 things are wrong, okay? I own a restaurant, but I see my competitor's restaurant. Those 5 things are wrong. So see, they're not that great. I go into a church. I see the 3 things that are wrong because in my church we do this, but at that church they do it wrong. So they're not that great. I walk into a business, their competitors are mine, and I hear great things about them. Oh, but those 5 things, they do it wrong. So they're not that great. What's coming out? It's jealousy, right? A jealous person is also reluctant to really help people, build them up, encourage them. It's kind of a weird thing, but in the world of comparing, a jealous person won't build other people up because in general, they don't want to give others an advantage. I'll give you an example. If you have a son or a daughter and they're jumping into the sports teams at school, and let's just say your child didn't make the starting team, right? So there's a couple children ahead of your child, right? And so the question is, do you celebrate those starters, or do you just kind of hold back celebrating them because you don't want to give them an unfair advantage? You don't want to build them up, encourage them because somehow you want to promote your child to get on the starting team. What's that look like for you? So question number 3 is this. In life, do you celebrate others and deeply mean it when good things happen to them, even if it means they appear to be getting ahead of you? Let's ask that again. It's kind of a long question. In life, do you celebrate others and deeply mean it when good things happen to them, even if it means they appear to be getting ahead of you? A jealous person They can feel threatened sometimes. They can feel threatened when they feel like someone is around them who's more talented, more popular, more beautiful, richer, smarter, etc. Because sometimes to a jealous person, someone else's positives are a threat to them, right? Somehow someone else doing something good is a threat to them, right? Question number 4, does it make you feel less when you are around people you consider more talented, popular, beautiful, richer, smarter? Does it make you feel less whenever you're around people that you think are more popular, more talented, beautiful, richer, smarter, etc.? Do you see what jealousy does? It takes the focus off of who God created you to be. It takes the focus off of what's good about you. And instead of just enjoying who God is and knowing who you are and who you're not, we're just focused on someone else. And even if something good happens for someone else, or they're better, popular, richer, prettier, we can't even enjoy that because it's a threat to us. I'm telling you, jealousy is a green monster, if we were going to use an analogy, and it's just awful. A jealous person enjoys when others fail. I don't think too many people admit this out loud, right? Jealous people enjoy it when other people fail, right? Because in the world of a jealous person, when someone else fails, that means the jealous person's better, because that's what we're doing. We're comparing. And there has to be wins and losses. And so when someone else fails, we win. So we kind of feel better about ourselves. So when people we don't like, churches we don't like, businesses we don't like, restaurants we don't like, and we could go on a long list, banks we don't like. When other people fail, a jealous person inside kind of feels validated. I used to work there and I left, and when they left, they crumbled. I feel good about that because they needed me, right? What's coming out? Jealousy. Okay, question number 5. Think of someone you don't really like. Now, I know you go to church and we're not supposed to admit this. It's okay. I was going to joke with you. I think I have at least 3, maybe 10, maybe even 20. No, I'm just kidding. Think of someone you don't like, right? If they failed today and it became public, would you kind of secretly be happy about their failure? Like, think about someone you don't like, a business you don't like, or whatever that looks like, a soccer club or a lacrosse club or a football team in sports, whatever. Think of someone you don't like. And if they failed today and it became really public and everybody was talking about it, would there be something inside you secretly that you're like, yes? Because why? Because that proves you're better, right? What's coming out? Jealousy. A jealous person in general is very negative, just negative. They're negative about work, about church, school. They're negative about the community, anything you're involved with. You're around them and they only see the problems, right? They're really quick to see what's wrong, and they always assume the worst about others, and they just tend to be very sarcastic. Question number 6. What would those who live with you say about you? Are you negative and are you sarcastic most of the time? Lastly, a jealous person really isn't happy with God. They kind of struggle with God because God's kind of disappointed them. You look around and you see other people and they seem to have an easy life. Things seem to kind of work out for other people, while we look at our own lives and we're like, man, I'm stuck in a life of struggle. We are unable to see their struggle, but we look at other people and we just think it's easy for them. I mean, seriously, it's just easy. They just got a new car. It must be easy for them. They're doing it right. Somehow, God has me in a position where I have to work really, really hard, and I have more setbacks than victories, and God is so disappointing. It's so frustrating. So question number 7. What are your feelings towards God when you struggle and others seem to have it easier than you? So let me just ask you, after we just took this quick quiz or test, do you struggle with jealousy? Do you feel like that might rattle around? Do you think some of these things are coming out of you? Scripture says this in James 3:14-16. If you have bitter jealousy and selfish ambition in your hearts, do not boast and be false to the truth. This is not the wisdom that comes from above, but is earthly, unspiritual, demonic. For where jealousy and selfish ambition exist, there will be disorder in every vile practice. That's stunning. I have to admit, even when I read this, I'm like, wow, that's stunning, right? If you have bitter jealousy and selfish ambition, Scripture's saying this is unspiritual and it's demonic. And guess what? It's going to, what's coming with it, you're opening the door to disorder and all other kinds of vile practice. That is hard, right? Scripture tells us jealousy is the doorway that allows a lot of other things to come with it. Now, I just want you to think about this. Remember I said jealousy begins with, I don't like who I am, and to feel better about myself, I'm going to start comparing myself to other people. So just think about this. Take a moment. Think about the damage that this idea that I don't like who I am. Think about the damage that leads our lives to. Think about the doorway, how that is a doorway into every other kind of evil. The premise is, I don't like who I am. It literally begins the doorway of so many things that are just really rough, right? Think about the damage jealousy brings into our lives. We really only feel better when we compare ourselves to others and win. We really can only focus on what's wrong with other people and other places. We can't celebrate or encourage others because we don't want to get them an unfair advantage. We're negative and sarcastic. We secretly hope others fail. And with God, we're just kind of frustrated with him because he allows other people to enjoy life and it's hard for me. And in our worst moments with jealousy, we're willing to fight, put others down, and hurt others. I mean, think about the doorway that jealousy opens all these other things. What an awful way to live. It's a tormenting way to live, just to kind of have a life and have all these things come into our lives. It really does lead to all kinds of evil. You don't want to walk through this door of jealousy because it really doesn't lead you anywhere. You don't open it up and you don't want to encourage these things to come at all. So what do you do? What do we do if we see jealousy? Maybe we took the test and we recognize it rattling around. What do we do? How do we kill this big green monster we would, to use an analogy, to get rid of? How do we do with it? Ready? No Bible verses. I'm going to give you one later. No Bible verses needed. I'm going to give you one word. Celebrate. If you feel jealous, you celebrate, right? The person you're jealous of, you celebrate them and mean it. Like, just think about that, right? So you're jealous of someone, and the answer to jealousy, to get rid of it, to really kind of deal with this green monster, right, is you celebrate them and you mean it. The child who got the starting job in front of your child, you celebrate them and you allow your child to see it because you're modeling for your children. We're not going to live with jealousy in our hearts. And when we leave the sports facility and drive home, we're going to celebrate other people. We're not going to put them down. We're going to celebrate people because we're going to be disciples of Christ, and jealousy isn't going to rule our world. So we celebrate the kids that might be in front of our kids. We celebrate the person at work who got the job we wanted. We celebrate the couple who got the house we wanted. We celebrate the neighbor who got the car we wanted. Like, we celebrate, we celebrate, we celebrate. The person you secretly hope fails, you celebrate them, right? What a great lesson to teach your kids who are walking through school. What a great lesson as adults to pull our kids aside, and when they come home, like I said, pull them aside and they're dealing with jealousy, and say, hey, this is how a disciple of Jesus responds to these things, right? We celebrate, and it's not fake. We do it for real, right? So how do you celebrate? Well, you text them, you write a letter, you say it with your words, and you do it over and over and over and over, just until jealousy's all gone, and then you keep doing it. You live a life where you celebrate other people. And as I say celebrate, isn't there something in you right now at home? Isn't there something inside of you that just rises up and it says, never, I don't like this person. Everything about them, they're smarter, prettier, faster, rich. I'm not going to celebrate them. I'm saying celebrate. There's something rising up inside you that says never. You know what that is? It's jealousy. It's jealousy. It's the doorway to all kinds of awful things coming in. It's jealousy. And when you celebrate and encourage others, it will be in complete conflict with everything inside you that's jealous. It's going to rub you the wrong way. It's going to be a huge battle. And I'm asking you, please don't over spiritualize this. Don't be the person that says, I'm praying about it and I'm hoping God by sometime next year is going to grab this and kind of pull it out of me. Don't say that while at the same time not celebrate, not encourage. Don't do that. Keep praying for sure, but engage, celebrate, celebrate, celebrate. Jesus taught this, Luke 6:31. Here's a simple rule of thumb for behavior. Ask yourself what you want people to do for you, then grab the initiative and do it for them. If you see jealousy coming out, you need to celebrate. You need to celebrate. It's the only thing that's going to take a bite out of that green monster. And trust me, it's going to take a lot of bites. You're going to have to celebrate a lot until this thing goes down. So when you see jealousy rattling around inside you, you must celebrate. So I'm just going to make this personal. I want to share this story with you. I'm pretty transparent about this stuff. I shared this before at MRC. One of the issues that really bounced around a lot in my heart when we started Mountain Ridge Church that I really never saw in myself was jealousy. So I was younger. This kind of bounced around in my heart, like I said. I never saw it. I did not know it was there, but those closest to me, they did see it. What is it that they saw? Well, every time I walked into a church, I could see what was wrong with the church. Every time I walked to a conference, I could see what's wrong with that conference, right? And I thought I was just being honest. I was just telling people what I saw. What I did not realize is just how deeply insecure I was. I did not like myself, and I could only see what was wrong with everything around me. I was very negative about other church people. I was very negative about other churches. Again, why? Well, I thought I was just seeing truth. I thought I was seeing, things with honesty. What I did not realize was I didn't like who I was, and it was jealousy was coming out. And honestly, one of the things that happened when we first started MRC, some other church plants actually failed. And I would never admit that I'm glad to see someone else fail, but I think inside, when I heard someone else fail, I thought to myself, we're doing it right, and they're not doing it right. What an awful thing to admit. It's on YouTube. Everybody knows now, right? You probably feel the same way. Just admit it. No, I'm just saying when I was younger, a lot of these things bounced around in my heart, and it wasn't good, and I didn't see it because jealousy is really hard to see, but those around me did see it. Why did this all happen? Well, you have to understand, I was very insecure. I wasn't really sure if I liked myself that much. And because I felt insecure, I was turning to others and was comparing, contrasting, what's going on there, what's going on here, right? So what did I do about it? Well, at first I did nothing about it because I didn't want to admit that I had it. I really wrestled with myself. Do I have it? Is this jealousy? I don't know. I see this with clarity, but is this jealousy? And why am I always negative all the time? I began to feel God really tugging at my heart for about a year or two, asking me to be more involved with the churches in my local area. Because at that point, I wanted nothing to do with other churches, nothing to do with other church people. We were doing our thing. And God really was moving in on me and pushing me to really kind of be friends and connect with other churches around us. And there is a ministerium here, so I joined it. Over the last several years, I've really discovered some really new friendship. I've discovered that the pastors around us are just beautiful people. We've worked together, we've prayed together, we've supported each other. We've had times of prayer where there's tons of tears and just lots of honesty with each other about what's going on in our lives, and just feeling blessed when someone prays for us, right? And now, honestly, I have a ton more friends, and a few of those folks have become very dear friends of mine. Today, I would do anything to support the other pastors around me. I could cry a bit. In fact, last fall, I led them through the book, Emotional Healthy Leadership book. And then we walked through the Emotional Healthy Spirituality book. And why would I do that? Why would I take something that was deeply meaningful to me and help build and support those around me? Here's why. A jealous person can't do that. And that's exactly what I had to do. I wanted to take the best of what was impacting me and sharing my wounds and what God might be doing in my life. And I wanted to share with everybody around me because I want them to have strength. I want them to be great because I didn't like who I was when I was jealous. I could cry. I didn't like who I was. And so if someone's able to heal, if someone's able to be stronger because of my wounds or my transparency, I want that. I want everybody around us to be stronger. This is why at MRC, when I pray, I don't just pray for Mountain Ridge Church before we start church. I'm praying that God would come to all the churches in this region. I really do mean that, but part of why I do it is I'm taking a bite out of jealousy. I want the other churches and the church leaders around us to be heroes. I want them to do well. The jealous person, like I said, just couldn't do that with a pure heart, and that's exactly why I had to do it. And so it's funny that I'm talking to you about it today. Today's Thursday. I'm not kidding. If you want a proof of this, I'll keep the text and I'll show it to you. Just this morning, one of the churches in this area, the pastor just texted me. I'm not kidding. It's this morning. I just spoke to my wife and Sam. I'm not kidding. And he texted me and he said, hey, the emotional spirituality stuff that we just walked through, it meant so much to me. Did you guys preach it? And we just started texting each other. And now they're going to grab what seemed to help us a lot, and they're going to use it because they want to use it to help impact other people. I just want to say, jealous people can't do that. And I want to tell you, it was a lot of work in my heart to dump and get rid of this jealousy to the point where I'm celebrating and building up people around me. Can I just ask you a question? Are you jealous? Because I want to tell you something. I come from this, so I know what I'm talking about. I just want to say that if you're jealous, it's an awful way to live. It's a doorway with so much messy stuff comes in, and it just clogs up the spiritual stuff. It's a mess. Scripture even says it's unspiritual. It's demonic. Like, get rid of this stuff, right? Are you jealous? Are you jealous? Are you jealous? Never allow jealousy to steal who you are. And when you begin to celebrate other people, it's almost as if, like, when you're jealous, you're focused on other people. But when you begin to celebrate other people, you're able to see who you are and who you aren't, and you can be at peace at that. And you're also telling someone else, if God's blessed you, I honor that. I think that's great. If you're rich or pretty or fast or better or more successful, that's great. God's doing great stuff for you, and I'm going to celebrate that. And I'm going to focus on who God asked me to be. Are you jealous? My encouragement for you is don't over-spiritualize this. Keep praying, but what you need to do is you celebrate, you celebrate, you celebrate. Why? It's the only thing that's going to start taking bites out of that big green monster and bring it down once and for all. So I don't know what you think about this. Email us, engage us, let us know what your thoughts are. But if jealousy's rattling around, I'm really encouraging you to engage and celebrate. We'll see you next week.